What's the most embarrassing thing you've done while being drunk? I got alcohol poisoning when I was 13 to where I almost died and was hospitalized for 3 days. But when I was drunk I was incapable of even moving or standing, and I guess I mumbled that I needed to pee and needed my friends to help me. They stood me up to pee and then I fell dick first into a bush of stinging nettle and spiders. There was also a video of me on the ground mumbling for help, because I was pretty much dying, and that circled around my friend group and I never stopped hearing about it for years. One night when I was 19 my friends and I were drinking at a local bar, Canadian drinking age BTW. It was minus 15 degrees Celsius outside and having no money left for a cab we decided to walk back to one of their houses drunk at 2 a.m. At one point we started wrestling for whatever reason and I wound up falling into a snowbank. Not sure if it was the shock from the cold or what, but I pissed my pants in front of everyone. I went to a friend's gathering where everyone got pretty drunk. In the middle of the night, still feeling the effects, I woke up needing to use the bathroom urgently. The bathroom was connected to the room I was in, but in my disoriented state, I somehow ended up in the closet instead, confused and unable to find my way out. I had an unfortunate accident. Eventually, I made it to the bathroom, cleaned up, and went back to bed. The next morning, I completely forgot what had happened until my friends sent out a group text asking if someone had gotten sick or something in the closet because there was literal shit in there. I never confessed. To this day they blame it on another friend who was in a worse state than I was. Was at a friend's house after a night out at about 1:30 a.m. Decided it was a good time to play football in the back garden and inevitably leathered it over several fences. Proceeded to climb over said fences through multiple gardens, trying to find the ball until I came to one garden where the house lights were on and there appeared to be people awake in the house. So decided I didn't want to look weird and went and knocked on the door, the back door, seeing as I was already in their back garden, to ask for permission to search the garden for the football at 1:30 a.m. A police officer answered the door, much to my surprise, and after a second of standing there dumbfounded, I explained my presence in as sober a manner as I could muster and sheepishly asked if I could search for the ball. To his credit, the police officer allowed this, and when I, very quickly, established the ball wasn't there, decided that this was the signal to call it quits, so said a jolly goodbye and did one back out to the road to head back to my mate's house as quickly as possible. The police officer followed me to see where I was going, and at this point the combination of booze and terror had me panicking somewhat, to the extent that I didn't know which house was my mate's. So I proceeded to try all the doors in the street whilst being observed by this police officer until the door opened. Thankfully it was my mate's place. My friend, having been partaking in a large spliff at the time, was understandably very distressed to hear the story about the police officer following me back to his house. But incredibly no knock on the door materialized. Years ago, I woke up on a plane approaching Minneapolis/St. Paul from Albuquerque. My friends said I called for a ride to the airport in Alb, and they said I seemed fine. I don't remember going to the airport. I came to as the captain was announcing our approach to Minnesota/St. Paul. I had no reason to go to Minnesota. I had to borrow money from friends to afford a return trip. I got to sleep in MSP Terminal 2 with no money, jacket, plan, or toothbrush. Got drunk, then went to high school band performance that I was supposed to play in. Don't remember much after this, but one of my friends knew I was drunk as fuck, sat me down behind stage. Band performed without me. After concert, I apparently tried to sell my phone for a waffle to my band director. After that I got dropped off at home. Next day at school, band director asked why I was drunk and why one of my friends was high on weed. All I said was, "You must be mistaken." To this day I don't know how I wasn't suspended. I thinks it's hilarious. 'Cause it wasn't me, of course. When in college my friend had way too much to drink and she asked me for a ride home. Sure. Halfway there she said she was going to be sick and I pulled over. On the ground it all went, but I had no paper towels and all I had was a fresh newspaper and she wiped her face with that. Lamau. The ink got all over her face. She asked if there was any vomit on her face 'cause her mom might not like that she was drunk. I replied, "Absolutely no vomit on your face." Next time I saw her she said, "Very funny." I went with my estranged dad to my G/GD's 40th wedding anniversary and we found out there was a free bar. I wanted to make a man impression on my dad as I've only just managed to get back in touch with him since I was young and I was so proud of my nan and grandpa, and being 17 I didn't know my limit. I learned after 3 Drambuis, 2 whiskey slams and about 5 Stellas in the space of 1 hour. Last I remember I woke up the next morning in the town we live in. Near this in mind we got the train there. I have only the smallest recollection of going outside for a smoke. The fresh air was like National Express. I dropped like a warm curly surly in the sun. Apparently my dad dragged me 150 feet, then gave up. My mate carried me 1 mile to the train station and took me to his yard, and I woke up with a broken cheekbone and panda eyes. I have recently moved back to this town, and every day I know that I have a lot of family here who was there that night. Unfortunately, I was direct to make a mental note of them. Lesson learned. Course for me. I was staying at the Fremont, Bay Area, Marriott for work, and I was in my underwear only with no shirt and very drunk, and I went to put the room service tray out in the hallway and the door closed behind me. This is a full-size Marriott with restaurant and bar in the lobby, and it is a very busy hotel, and there are quite a lot of people in the lobby. I had to go to the front desk in my boxer briefs. Luckily my room was on the first floor, and ask for a key. Luckily I was pretty wasted, so I didn't really have to feel the embarrassment at the time. Not me, but a friend of mine. We were walking home from this party in an old construction trailer where we used to get drunk off our asses. One of our friends was so drunk that he could barely walk straight, so we decided to take him home, in the opposite direction from where we live. On the way back, my buddy says that he has to take a shit urgently and doesn't know if he'll make it home. Suddenly he tells me, "Stop here, I can't go on," and I see him staggering behind some rundown house. This was the not-so-nice part of town. Some time passes and some residents have noticed me and look at me skeptically or roll up the shutters. It was deep in the night and I'm standing in the middle of the street. My friend comes back, grabs me by the arm and says, "We have to go," with an urgency I can't explain. I just run after him until we stop a few minutes later, gasping for breath, and he tells me what happened. The guy dropped his pants in some pitch-black backyard and let his diarrhea run free, until suddenly a light goes on and he just realizes that he has shit in a barbecue bowl. In college, I spent a ton of money on tickets and Jack Daniels to a nationally televised basketball game with both teams ranked top 5 in country. Invited a cute girl to go to game and hang out after, and she accepted. Great game. We win. And she disappears promptly right after the game during celebration. Thoroughly drunk and getting drunker. I see her draped over dudes at the popular bar later. I go up and make a scene. Get in a fight. Run outside, get in my 77 4-cylinder Mustang. Hit a Trans Am backing out and lead them and the police on a chase in the snow and ice through town back to my dorm with cops hot on my trail, only to be nabbed and thrown in jail. Come to in jail with some dude telling me I'll never get out. Lost big bucks in the girl. Damaged car. Lost license. Fines. Etc. Sigh. Freshman life. Threw up on a stripper I'd spent $4,000 on over a few weeks. Passed out outside the bar. Woke up in the hospital. Ripped the IVs out and left. Passed out outside another bar and woke up on my crush's couch with her explaining how that killed the feelings she had for me. She ended up marrying the dude she fucked that night. Broke my nose falling face first because I forgot how to stand. Twice. There's more. Those just stand out. So, my husband and I were drinking, and I fell onto the carpeted floor somehow. Instead of it hurting, I simply laughed at it and I said the first thing on my mind, which was, "Look, I'm a sea turtle." And I started to drag myself across the floor like a turtle. My husband, equally drunk, laughed with me and said, "Babe, you're too drunk." To which I replied, "When too drunk, sea turtle." We both laughed and repeated the phrase to each other over and over again. We still laugh about it even now. Not my proudest moment, but it was still funny regardless. Was at a bar with a buddy of mine. We both got drunk. Walked up to a girl and she rejected me. I went to my buddy and told him she is not interested. To which he replied, "Bro, are you crazy? Of course she's interested. Why wouldn't she be interested? Go talk to her." Being drunk, I rationally reached the conclusion that he must be correct. So I returned. I spoke to her like 3 times, I believe. I ran into her while sober a few weeks later at another bar and bought her a drink to apologize. Lol, this was about 18 years ago roughly. Still remember it very well. Lol. In college, the lads found me in the neighbor's greenhouse having a full-on conversation with the plants. At a house party. They had video of it and everything. Not long after, I kicked a ball over the fence, and instead of stepping over the waist-high fence to get it, I leant on the fence at the waist to try and grab it. That section of the fence collapsed, trapping my left arm underneath, and the lads left me there in the dark. In my defense, I had drunk a fishbowl that contained a shot of everyone's drink, including 3 shots of absinthe. I still pulled that night, but I don't remember much of it. We got woken up at about 6 in the morning by the furious man next door, wanting us to pay for a new fence. Live is for a living, I suppose. After losing a drinking competition, Quattro, peach schnapps, and falling face first into the toilet at the club, getting thrown out, then tottering the 3 miles home, I went into my friend's room and decided it was very important I stick bacon to his mirror, then completed my masterpiece by writing "sting" in toothpaste on the mirror too. Then I passed out, woke up with bacon, toothpaste glued to my face to find my uni head lecturer friend, pissing themselves, And halls of residence counselor looking down at my prone body. Classy.